for the introduction. Thank you, Al, for inviting us to speak here tonight. Al suggested that we might give a talk on Remembrance Day at Gettysburg and our involvement in it over the years. As we were thinking about this, Bill and I began recounting many pleasant memories of our participation there, at first separately and then together as a couple, and realized that with few exceptions, I personally have been traveling to Gettysburg to participate in remembering the boys in blue for 25 years now, and Bill for 23. It's become as much a part of our lives as other major holidays or family days such as birthdays. So much so that we were married in Gettysburg in the Adams County Courthouse on the Monday after Remembrance Day in 2010. What exactly is Remembrance Day? Well, we'll start by sharing with you what we know of its origins and how it differs from Dedication Day in the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. After the end of the Civil War in 1865, the Grand Army of the Republic, or GAR, was formed in 1866 in Decatur, Illinois. Founded as a fraternal organization of Union Civil War veterans, including Army, Navy, and Marines, it was the largest of all Union veterans organizations. At its peak in 1890, there were over 400,000 members reported, with over 7,000 local GAR posts across the country at the community level. We stand here tonight in the beautiful memorial hall of one of these posts, General Frederick W. Lander, post number 5 in Lynn, Massachusetts. The years rolled by, time passed, and in 1956, the last surviving member of the GAR, Albert Wilson of Minnesota, died at the age of 106 or 109, depending on whose account you read. At Wilson's death, the GAR was dissolved. Now, back in 1881, 15 years after the founding of the GAR, another fraternal organization was formed in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, a descendant organization of the GAR, founded to make the declining days of the Union veteran pleasant, to promote his record of service to his country, to honor his memory, and to promote patriotism. Other allied orders emerged as well, namely the Sons of Veterans Reserve, the auxiliary to the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, the Daughters of Union Veterans of the Civil War, excuse me, the Ladies of the GAR, and the Women's Relief Corps. The Sons of Union Veterans organization was chartered by a joint resolution of Congress in 1954. Following the death of Wilson on August 2nd, 1956, almost 3,000 people gathered to witness the dedication of a monument to the GAR in Gettysburg in Ziegler's Grove on Cemetery Hill on September 12th of that year, which bears the likeness of Wilson as the last known surviving member of that organization. This event was the highlight of the 75th National Encampment of the GAR. In the following year, 1957, the Sons of Union Veterans began holding an annual, quote, GAR Remembrance Day, end quote, program in Gettysburg in cooperation with the other allied orders. Ceremonies, including speeches and wreath laying, were held at the GAR Monument, which is now commonly referred to as the Wilson Monument. These ceremonies have continued each year in some fashion, with the exception of 2021, when all activities on Remembrance Day were canceled due to COVID-19. This then is the origins of Remembrance Day, and over the years, various events have been added to it, so that now it has become known more commonly as Remembrance Day weekend. Each year, Remembrance Day is held on the Saturday closest to the date of November 19th, which of course is the anniversary of the day at which President Abraham Lincoln dedicated the Soldiers' National Cemetery on Cemetery Hill, just over 4 short months after the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863, This anniversary of the dedication of the National Cemetery and Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, November 19th, formally became known as Dedication Day by a joint resolution of Congress on that date in 1946. Each year since 1938, November 19th, the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania, in cooperation with the National Park Service, the Gettysburg Foundation, and Gettysburg College, has commemorated the day, highlighted by the laying of a wreath at the Soldiers and Sailors National Monument and a cemetery held at the rostrum, both within the National Cemetery. The ceremony includes patriotic songs and musical selections, speeches by dignitaries, a U.S. naturalization ceremony with a swearing in of new American citizens, and a well-known keynote speaker. Past keynote speakers have included noted Civil War historians, authors, actors, television news correspondents, and local, state, and national politicians, among others. Previously, I spoke about Remembrance Day being held on the Saturday closest to the date of November 19th. Dedication Day, sometimes November 19th falls on a Saturday, and that is when all Remembrance Day and Dedication Day activities and ceremonies coincide, and it makes for a very busy weekend indeed. Now, that's the background, a little bit about the cemetery before I go into what we do when we go down each year. It was then called the Soldiers National Cemetery, now known as the Gettysburg National Cemetery, administered by the National Park Service. Just after the Battle of Gettysburg, fought on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 1863, the town was reeling from the aftermath of the battle. Pennsylvania Governor Andrew Curtin authorized Gettysburg attorney David Wills to purchase land for the Soldiers National Cemetery, in which to bury the remains of the loyal Union volunteers from the 18 Union states that were engaged there. Wills purchased land adjacent to Gettysburg's Evergreen Cemetery on Cemetery Hill for $2,475.87 for the reburial for the remains of the Union dead from the battlefield and from the nearby field hospitals. Bids went out, and the lowest bidder chosen, going to a man named F.W. Bisecker at the rate of $1.59 per body for disinterring, removing, and reinterring the remains. A Mr. Samuel Weaver was chosen to superintend the exhumation of the bodies. The total number of Union soldiers reburied from the area from the 18 states who fought at Gettysburg is 3,555. This number includes U.S. volunteers, U.S. regulars, and 979 unknowns. This brings us to Bill's and my involvement in Remembrance Day. In 1995, the Civil War Roundtable of the Merrimack was founded in Newburyport, Massachusetts, and I'm one of the charter members and the current president. At one of the very first meetings, I met a woman named Cynthia Brown. Cynthia and her husband, Ellsworth Brown, were both very active members at that time in both the Ladies Auxiliary to the Sons of Union Veterans and the Sons of Union Veterans, respectively. Ellsworth belonging to Sumner Needham Camp 21 at that time, and Cynthia to Auxiliary 128. Cynthia promptly recruited myself, my daughter Eileen Kelly, and other ladies who were attending the roundtable into the auxiliary. Cynthia and Ellsworth conceived of the idea of placing U.S. flags on the graves of the Civil War soldiers buried in the National Cemetery at Gettysburg and holding a memorial ceremony near one of the New England sections, and started the tradition of laying sprigs of the herb rosemary on each soldier's grave, saying his name and rank aloud as one does so. The first year the Browns did this was 1996. Thereafter, beginning in 1997, along with other ladies from the New England States Auxiliaries, to participate in Remembrance Day, my daughter and Eileen traveled along. have traveled along. Bill remembers 1999 as his first year of Remembrance Day, when he came to participate with the 20th Maine Reenactor Regiment and march in the parade, and brought his daughter Rachel along as well. This was done in conjunction with and great cooperation from the New England States Sons of Union Veterans departments. In 2011, Cynthia asked if I, as a member of the auxiliary, along with Bill as one of the other Civil War couples in our circles, would take on the responsibility of heading up the New England States Auxiliary's participation in and planning of and hosting the activities that she and Ellsworth had begun in the National Cemetery on Remembrance Day in Gettysburg. We heartily agreed and have done our best to carry on with this fine tradition, which we look forward to each November. The placing of flags on each Civil War soldier's grave was done until November 2021, when a new superintendent named to the Gettysburg National Military Park and the National Cemetery, he was named in January of 2020, changed our usual routine. A by-the-book West Point grad, his office informed us that we could no longer flag only the Civil War graves in the cemetery on Remembrance Day. National cemetery rules state that any flagging of graves done within a national cemetery must include the graves of veterans of all wars, even at Gettysburg. With the many veterans buried there from wars subsequent to the Battle of Gettysburg, this brought the total to over 7,000 graves, a number not any of the groups who've traveled to Gettysburg over the years to flag could contemplate doing. We have been allowed, however, to continue holding our memorial ceremony and to lay memorial wreaths at the head of each section of the New England states, and to lay our rosemary. I will tell you that though the world shut down during 2020 due to COVID, Bill, my daughter, Eileen, and I still traveled to Gettysburg for Remembrance Day, even though no other activities were held that year. We simply could not let our boys in blue down. Each fall, then, I obtained the necessary permit for our Remembrance Day activities from the National Park Service. It is very specific in what we can and cannot do, and when we can or cannot do it. In coordination with primarily the Massachusetts and New Hampshire Department of the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, and the members of the auxiliary as well, I planned the ceremony, obtained the proper amount of rosemary, long known as the herb of remembrance, and cut the sprigs to length, making sure we have enough for the 6 New England states. I will mention that the states of Connecticut and Rhode Island traditionally have sent down representatives from their departments and or auxiliaries, and so have flagged their state sections themselves. The sons in the auxiliary that we represent or are talking about here tonight have done the states of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. And I will give you those numbers. Let's see in the front here. The total for New England is 407 graves, with Maine being 104, Vermont 61, New Hampshire 49, Massachusetts 159, with Connecticut at 22 and Rhode Island at 12 graves in the National Cemetery. Over the years, we have obtained rosemary from various places to fulfill our needs. Most recently, it has been kindly donated by Lake Street Garden Center in Salem, New Hampshire. And some years, and this coming November may be one of those years when we will have a bit of trouble coming up with 407 sprigs of rosemary. But we have, it is not unknown to us to have to visit the local market basket before we leave and purchase what we need if we think we might not have enough to give each soldier a little sprig in remembrance. In years past, the flags that were placed on the graves were first loaned to be cleaned and returned after Remembrance Day weekend and Cynthia and Ellsworth did this dutifully for a number of years. Later, they were donated by various organizations. We certainly do appreciate the help and support. Years ago, when participation in Remembrance Day was quite high, before we left town each year at the end of Remembrance Day weekend, we made our hotel reservations for the following November, so a year in advance, to be assured of having a room the following year. These days, the demand for accommodations is either not quite as high or in addition to more hotel rooms that have been added in the area, as well as short-term rentals such as Airbnb and VRBO units becoming available. Through the years, we have traveled to Gettysburg and participated in all kinds of weather and situations. There were years where we found snow, freezing temperatures, rain, and bone-chilling winds. I made mention of many other events that have been added over the years, the major one being the Sons of Veterans Reserve Parade, with thousands of Civil War reenactors and living historians, soldiers and civilians alike from both Union and Confederate sides, all in period attire, per the rules. Marching out from the Gettysburg school grounds, down Middle Street, turning south onto the Emmitsburg Road, and then veering off onto Steinmore Avenue before turning left up the old Visitor Center Drive, a good mile-long walk. Other events of the weekend include usually various tours, meetings, lectures, and several Civil War era period dress balls. And since 2002, the Friends of the National Park at Gettysburg have placed luminaries at all 3,555 graves of the Civil War soldiers in the National Cemetery, where taps is played throughout the evening. I believe that's Friday evening, the day before, night before the parade, the luminaries.
On Saturday.
Saturday evening, excuse me. And volunteers continuously read the names of the Civil War soldiers buried there. I hope this gives you a little glimpse of what this weekend is all about, Remembrance Day versus Dedication Day, and a little glimpse into what we've done over the years, how it started and how we've carried on. And I would personally like to thank the Massachusetts and New Hampshire members of the Sons of Union Veterans and the auxiliaries that have participated over the years, and our roundtables, our respective roundtables, who have enabled us to do this with their help. And I know that Dexter spoke earlier of the Sons of Union Veterans bus trip that they hold each year down to Gettysburg for Remembrance Day in November. And I would encourage anyone, member of a roundtable or not, or member of a fraternal group or not, like the Sons or the auxiliary, to please don't hesitate to visit Gettysburg on Remembrance Day weekend. It's an experience you will never forget.